Hello, everybody. Welcome to All Villa, No Filler, a podcast all about Aston Villa, the world's greatest football team. Please hit that subscribe button on YouTube and like and whatever else. Hello. First time I've seen everybody since before the RB Salzburg game. I was there. It was absolutely goddamn freezing. I didn't have time to do a reaction to it or anything yesterday, but I'm here now to talk a bit about that, but then also about some of the other stuff that's been going on and the Brentford game coming up on Sunday. Firstly, I met a few people there. The Irish Lions there, Paddy from Liverpool McGrath. The Longford Lions are all there as well. Fantastic to meet them. Espen, I met Espen incredibly from Norway. Brilliant to meet you. Follow what you do online. Fantastic guy. And Esme at a train station as well, who's a massive Aston Villa fan. Shout out to Esme and her dad from Tipton. Yes, nice to meet so many people. Steve as well. My God, I met so many people, it's kind of ridiculous. But yeah, brilliant to meet you all and hope to see you all again there very, very soon. But the game itself, first half, it just kind of looked like Villa were a bit half-assed and it walked out into the freezing cold kind of, shall we say, it was almost like Scandinavian weather, given that it was like Espen brought the cold from Norway to the game itself. And as I can see there, my Villa fan, Norway loves the Villa. Of course, there were loads of Norwegian Villa fans I've discovered. But yes, incredible stuff. But yeah, that first half Villa were a little bit half-assed. You could see they wanted to walk the game really, and also what you expect. I mean, you're playing a lot of people who haven't really played together before. You know, George Hemmings making his his starting debut for the Villa. You had Harvey Elliott played amazingly. He's actually he lives. Sancho playing on the right with him. You got Bogard at right back. Just a lot of Mings and Lindelof pairing up at the centre. So a lot of things where you could just sense that Villa were not really going to be at the races. And I think that first goal. I think where I was a bit frustrated with Mings is that I think Mings is he's such an icon. We all love the guy, and I am desperate to see him lift the trophy for the Villa. But I kind of felt that his mistake kind of came from being too casual. And I think if I'm ever to be critical of Unai Emery's Villa, it's when they get too casual. And look, yes, we've qualified already, but you do want that advantage to come in top two, and you do want to get, you want, if you get top two, you get the home legs in the second leg of the knockouts in the Europa League. And it just felt like Villa thought they could walk it, and it's never the case in Europe, is it? Ever. When you play any team that's full of professional footballers, those professional footballers are going to be absolutely brilliant at football. So you can't just walk your way through it like you could against Dog and Duck FC with Frankie Maguire starting up front. No, you have to put some effort in. And we just got a bit caught out with all the different factors, the different players not really having featured before and all that. And Hemmings was a tough debut, I think, but I think in the sense like his first touch tended to always be a little bit heavy. But he, it's just an experience for him. I think he's a fantastic young talent, clearly, and is going to go quite a lot of places in his career. And I think Thursday night probably suit him really well because it'll be a big moment of, learning. And, basically he has to get his first touch better because it's hard enough against RB Salzburg in the Premier League. You get even less time. So, good learning experience for him, I think. And then second half, concede early on, but then from there, you still sense still in my head, I was like, we're 2-0 down. I thought, if Villa at any point here decide to start playing, it probably feels like the momentum's going to swing enough that we at least draw it. But then as soon as, Matty Cash came on and he was fantastic, some of his crossover balls into Luka Dean were unbelievable. Jim Aloba, Kader Young came on, did really well. When Lamar Bogard stepped into centre midfield, Bogard and Onana with that central pairing. When Harvey Elliott looked like he started to get back into find some sharpness and started working nice things out right with Jadon Sancho. When it all came together, Villa looked like a serious team, and that's what happened, Got that first goal, Morgan Rogers, going up front. I think he could be a striker one day. I've called him the heir to Watkins before, thinking that maybe he could be a player that maybe could play in a sort of false nine role, a sort of Kai Havertz role, maybe. But yeah, he showed what he can do. Came deep, link up with Emery Buendia, gets a goal, pulls us back. Then from there, it was a one-way traffic, really. It was Harvey Elliott linking up very nicely again down the right. There's a player there. There is. But Villa go work it up to get that second goal. Matty Cash again with a fantastic ball into the box. Tyrone Mings, redemption story for that casual mistake he made for the first goal. Came back, pulled it to 2-2. He was loving it. And then from there, one of the great moments of Villa Park of this season, really. 2 young lads born in Birmingham, grew up there, come through the U team. Caden Young down the right, puts a cross in along the floor. And Jimo Aloba, age 19, comes in, and what a finish. Just places it beautifully into the bottom corner. So good. I dropped my expensive little camera, didn't I? So that was somewhat foolish. But yeah, great. Just a great moment, really. And something you'd like to think Jimo Aloba will be able to build off for the future as Aston Villa as he pushes on into his career. And there's talk now of him potentially going to West Brom. There's part of me that thinks maybe just keep him around and let him do a bit of a Makeda. Makeda got that goal against Villa for Manchester United and followed it up with a couple of goals against Sunderland and I think 1 or 2 others as well. Makeda's career didn't really ever go too far, but Jimo Aloba, if he stuck around, he'd come into games, show real confidence, and could maybe do some things. And as soon as he came on the other day, he looked very, very sharp and had that shot from distance that was saved. And look, whatever happens, if he sticks around at Villa, I'm sure he'll get game time and he'll come on and he'll be confident and believe he can really make a difference. If he goes to West Brom, I know they're not in the best form at the moment. I think they just sacked their manager, didn't they, as well? Or I've not kept track of them really too sharply recently, but he'll go in there and he'll be at a good level team and probably get a decent amount of football. And he came from West Brom originally, didn't he? So we'll see. But I'd love it if you stuck around. Love it. But yeah, an amazing moment. There's nothing more we love as fans to see youth players come through and have big moments. And that was a massive moment for Caden Young and Jimo Aloba. So brilliant stuff. And Villa, they showed once again, 3 wins in a row after losing to Everton. Showed once again it's a winning team and a serious team in Europe, because the Villa we've always known, they wouldn't come back. 2-0 down against RB Salzburg, they just wouldn't have done that. But this Villa team, it's the type of team that can go to horrible away day at Fenerbahce and just dominate. And it's a team that goes 2 down at home because they're too casual, and then they turn it on and they just batter everyone. Amazing. So yeah, that was great. But I'd said in a podcast, Unai Emery making me look a fool. I'd said that Evann Guessand, I think he's going to be sticking around for the rest of the season now, really. I mean, there's not loads of options in the centre given our injuries. And I think that Unai Emery gave up on him as a right winger, as a touchline right winger after the Everton game, where, frankly, Guessand was really quite poor. Just never quite looked up to the pace of things. But if you looked at all of his Nice highlights, all of the best things he ever did seem to be in a more central role, seems to be more deep, seems to even be kind of going up front. And I'd say his best moment for Villa, really, was his debut when he came on against Brentford and went on to the left and was rolling his men and just looked a little bit more involved over that side. But went out onto the right wing for Villa from there, really. And he played on the left against Crystal Palace and we lost 3-0 and he was very poor. But always looked like just a player you had to be patient with. Just think maybe he'll, potentially could go on and be a serious player. All the European podcasts were talking about him as a real star. If you looked at his highlights with Nice, he looked very good, but only in a central role, really. At Villa, he's always looked a bit like he's second-guessing himself. And there's been moments where he's had the ball, he's beaten his man, and then he's sort of stopping, and he's not. There's no real sort of pace or gumption to just get things done quickly. It's been a weird time from at Villa, and I said, look, we've got to back him, support him all the way through to the end of the season. Well, within 24 hours, he's gone. Off he goes to Crystal Palace. Rob Dorset Sky has even reported that it includes a £28 million obligation to buy, triggered if certain milestones are met. Travel to London to finalise the move. He's agreed a 4-year contract at Selhurst Park if the deal becomes permanent. So we'll see. I mean, Crystal Palace, their wingers seem to be a little bit more inverted than the ones Villa have. Particularly the right winger where Guessand was playing. So, maybe it'll work better for him at Crystal Palace, and if he shines there, they might meet the obligation, and off he goes. And has to be seen as a pretty poor purchase, really. Hasn't worked. Rooster Villa asking here, will Villa replace him with anyone? Not sure, to be honest. Really not sure. I mean, if you look at Villa's team right now, there's not loads and loads of options centrally, given the amount of injuries we have. But if we are to say who can play in those central roles, well, for Guessand, he's not going to get past Buendia. He's not going to get past Morgan Rogers. On the right, we now have Bailey and Sancho, and we also have Alisson. Ross Barkley can also play in a more advanced role. I actually drove past Barkley in my car the other day, and he was walking okay. So there's some good news for us. He went back into full training on Friday. But there's not, Douglas Luiz as well, but there's not loads of options, which is why I was slightly surprised Guessand went. I thought maybe it's time for us to just give him a chance out in that central area and see what I can do. But clearly that's not going to be the case. So we'll see. But this also is the team that I'm wondering whether this will be the starting lineup against Brentford. I think Douglas Luiz, he could be thrown straight back in. He's a bit of a plug-in and play player, same as Leon Bailey, I guess. But I sort of wonder whether Unai Emery might actually just start with Martinez at the back, Maatsen on the left, Pau Torres on as centre-back, Ezri Konsa, Matty Cash, Onana and Bogard as the double pivots. Yes, it's quite defensive, but maybe Onana plays as a slightly more attacking one. Buendia, Rogers, Sancho, and Watkins, depending, of course, on Watkins' fitness levels. I was at the game. It didn't look too serious. It looked like something that was probably more of a precaution. What I've seen online tends to make me think that it's hopefully not too serious at all, and he might be in contention. And Watkins doesn't tend to be, touch wood, a player who gets too many serious injuries. So I think the ideal would be, Watkins does the 70 minutes maybe, and then we bring on the man. There we go. Get rid of that. Tammy Abraham, put him up there. Then you could have Leon Bailey as the option who could come on for Sancho. Although Sancho did play pretty much most of the game the other night until Caden Young came on. So it's possible that Leon Bailey does start. Then I think at some point we're going to see Douglas Luiz, Ross Barkley, if he's available as well. So good to have those two in. Great to have those two options. And good to know that we're not going to have to play Onana maybe for 90 minutes. We'll see. But with Brentford, so I was at the game earlier this season where Brentford beat us 1-0. Came at a really, really disappointing moment. What Brentford did in that game, they sat very, very deep. It was almost like a kind of 5-4-1. And they just ceded all the possession to Villa, allowed us to have about more than 70% possession. But we had very, very few chances in that game. And quite often, those sorts of games are the ones where Villa struggles to break a team down. Think back to Sheffield United all them years ago when they were bottom of the league and became with 6 at the back, essentially. It was a game where, we just didn't look at ourselves. And Brentford was the same. And what was it? Long ball from the goalkeeper, Kelleher, all the way over the top into, I think it was Dango Ouattara. He gets through. It's a comedy of errors, bounces back off Matty Cash, off the keeper, and then Ouattara makes it 1-0. And from there, we absolutely dominated but didn't create anything. And I'd like to think Villa have grown since that game. Of course, we're a lot better than we were at that point in the season. But still, if they come and try and do that to us at Villa Park, they come and try and do a defensive stalwart job like Everton did, we could get caught out. Absolutely. I think Brentford, they like to sort of, it's a sort of 4-2-3-1, but what quite happens with them is that their defender will step forward, so there'll be 3 at the back. He steps forward into the middle, and then they kind of constrict the central zone a little bit like what Everton did to us. and make it difficult for us to play through. Not having Tielemans, not having John McGinn, there's players who can sort of turn instead of Onana and maybe Bogard. That's going to be it's going to be tricky. So we're going to be relying on Pau Torres to get those balls through into the central area. Of course, going to rely on Bogard and Onana to be able to turn, but also Barkley or Douglas Luiz, having one of them come in and just be a player who's a little bit more creative from deep. That would be very, very helpful indeed, I think, and try and emulate some of what Lindelof would do. What Tielemans would do. So I have a very tired brain. It's been a pretty exhausting couple of days. We'll see. That's what I'm theorising the central area be. Obviously, as well, they've got players like Michael Coyote with their long throws and they'll be very direct. So imagine tomorrow there will be a lot of set pieces, a lot of long throws, set pieces coming in from Brentford. They will sit deep. They will try and hit us long a lot of the time, kind of similar to what they did at their place earlier this season. No doubt with Igor Thiago, with Kevin Schade, there will be some issues they'll cause in that sense. You also have Christopher Ayer, their central back, and Mikkel Damsgaard. Their doubts for tomorrow. I think it's 50-50. I'd be very pleased not to see Damsgaard play. I think if you were to say, were Brentford to sit deep and try and hit us when the opportunities arise, they'll be looking for Damsgaard to find space in between the Villa lines and send players away. That would be a Schade. That would be an Igor Thiago, and he's just one of them who, a little bit like Morgan Rogers, he's just really, really good in finding those spaces between the midfield and the defence and picking out passes and just creating generally. He's a fantastic player. If Damsgaard and I are out, that's a big help for Villa. Thinking about what Villa can do, if they're deep, well, look, take shots from distance. It's worked for us enough this season. Just keep doing it. And look, I think that I think Villa have, enough in players like Rodgers who can link up from deep and just work their way through low blocks and find a way with their passing range, and having Jadon Sancho, but Leon Bailey coming on in the second half as well, likely, or one of the two of them, whoever it starts, having them as a sort of X factor on the right, because we finally now have really a right wing option, because Guessand wasn't ever really it, was he? And on top of that, Tammy Abraham is an option to come in and be a player that, if we're finding that they're playing really deep, it's very difficult to break through them. Well, we can start sending our own aerial balls into the box, and there's Tammy Abraham. So we have a fair few options in attack, don't we? When you've got Bailey, Sancho, Watkins, Abraham, Rodgers, Buendia, Douglas Luiz as well. Ross Barkley can come up into those more advanced positions. That's enough there that Villa can do something. I just say my only thing about I'm slightly surprised at Guessand going is that obviously it's one of them that Unai Emery said, PSR and SCR hangs over us like a cloud. We have to do deals when they arise. If Unai Emery has seen enough and feels that Guessand is just not the right player for what he wants, well, then we have to try and get the money back as soon as we can. But it slightly surprises me that having that one extra option and trying him out in a more central zone is quite surprising. We're not going to give that a go, but it is what it is. And Unai's seen enough, decided Guessand just isn't it, and that's the way it is. And I do think there's a player there in Guessand. I do think he's talented. I think a lot of players, at Villa, he's not shown that. He's by and large been, to be honest, very poor in a lot of his games. But maybe Crystal Palace is where he can kick on and do something. But he is exiled. He's gone. Harvey Elliott is an option, but Unai Emery said in the press conference after the RB Salzburg game, nothing has changed with the situation. So the presumption is that Harvey Elliott is a break glass in case of emergency player. And I think if he sticks around for the rest of the season and they don't remove the obligation, there's still, I think, 3 games before that kicks in. So I have a feeling that maybe Elliott will play in another game this season. But by and large, don't expect to see him again, I would say. So, yeah, maybe Jim Olobi comes on and, remember, like I said about Makeda when he scored against United, he followed that against Aston Villa for Man United. He followed that up with the goal against Sunderland. Jim Olobi, maybe he comes on, he's buzzing, is excited, and comes on and tries to do something for us. We shall see. But anyway, yeah, I think that's what it will be. So Duncan Kilburn just saying there that some recruitment not a success, hence Monchi out. Yeah. There was an interesting interview that Monchi did in Spain that was translated in the media here, where he talked about finding it difficult to balance up the time between helping his boyhood club in Spain going out of business to balancing up what he did at Villa. And I have had the impression there was some confusion about Monchi maybe not being as involved this summer as he maybe should have been. That's just conjecture and noises I've heard. Yeah, well, I mean, look, Monchi left soon after, didn't he? And it wasn't the most successful season this summer. I'll always say the caveat of it was an extremely difficult summer given the restrictions Villa were under with PSR and SCR. It was always an extremely difficult summer in the fact that we had to make a profit with the players that we went out. And I wonder if looking at Guessand, whether, when you look at his highlights with Nice, a lot of what he did was more central. It was actually towards the left-hand side as well. Maybe they saw him as a replacement for Jacob Ramsey. So then it's interesting. We never really played him there, stuck him out on the right, and it just never looked like a touchline right winger. And you just wonder, adapting to Unai Emery's style, was it just too steep a leap for him? And were the demands that he was given that sort of put doubt in his head as to whether to gamble like he would have done at other teams, and where he might have lost possession on occasions. He might have been told to try and retain possession as much as he can. But I will say, when Leon Bailey came on against Newcastle last week, it just immediately looked like, wow, he looks like a natural right winger that Villa just haven't had all season. So having him, Alisson, who's apparently doing very well, although he's injured at the moment, and Jadon Sancho as right wing options, that's enough really, isn't it? Just look on the left. You've got Sancho, Buendia, Rodgers can all go out there. Barkley can also step forward into that number 10 role. But it does feel like we're just missing one. Just not quite. The numbers aren't quite there, knowing that McGinn is out and Tielemans is obviously out until mid-March. So it feels a little bit like we're riding a look a little bit. Tammy Abraham can also probably go into that number 10 role, and you could even have Abraham with Watkins in the number 9 and the two of them working together. But by and large, back to the original point that it's not really worked this summer. Bizot's been a great upgrade from Olsen, fantastic. Lindelof's proven a really canny signing. He's been a great signing, to be honest. Guessand has not really worked given the financial outlay, and it looks like if the obligation is taken by Crystal Palace, we probably haven't made too much of a financial loss. And also Villa have to think SCR-wise, and you're thinking Europe, if we're bringing Bailey's wages back, I'd say he's on a very good wage, six-figure wage. Well, then Guessand going out, again, we have to show evidence to UEFA. We are doing everything we can to work within their cool Hanluk system. And I dare say that's showing it. But yeah, we'll see. Rooster Villa says smash the likes. Yes, please do, everybody. Please hit the likes. Please subscribe. We're really close to 4,100 subscribers. We've shot up this in the last few weeks. So thank you, everybody who is subscribed to this show, this channel. It is hilarious on Thursday that I said, look, we've got to back Evann Guessand until the end of the season. We don't have to now. So I'm made to look a fool, aren't I? So please unlike and unsubscribe. That's what I'm asking for now. Please don't do that, please. But yeah, we'll see. Tomorrow, Brentford. I mean, let me know what you think. But Brentford's away form recently hasn't been great. They've lost most of the games they've played away. Tottenham away, Arsenal away, Chelsea away. They lost last time out as well. I saw quite a bit of that Chelsea game. They created a lot of chances. just weren't able to take any of them. So they are going to create. That's the thing. But Aston Villa at home, let's just not repeat what happened against Everton. I'd like to think that with Everton, it was similar to the Crystal Palace game earlier this season when we lost at home, in that it was one of them where quite unsettled by the transfer window. Marlon's just gone out. We've not got the attacking options weren't really there. And when McGinn got injured and Guessand came on into that right wing role, Guessand was frankly pretty awful. He just never ever looked comfortable in that role, which is why I theorise Unai Emery called Leon Bailey back. And I think it said a lot that the next week when Villa played against Newcastle, it was Bailey who came on, having been away on loan all season, into that right-hand role to replace Jadon Sancho, and it wasn't Evann Guessand. That said a lot to me. And yeah, I think tomorrow, we've probably got more options in that Bailey's there, and Sancho, and potentially even Caden Young after what he did. I think Villa will be looking to bounce back, and I think we look at, we always, when we have a loss, we bounce back with wins generally. Beating Fenerbahce, amazing win at Newcastle, and great comeback victory against RB Salzburg on Thursday. So you'd have to think that, given that Brentford are going away and generally losing a place like Tottenham and Arsenal and Chelsea, that going to Aston Villa is a place where we are going to create chances, and if we take them, we're probably going to win. But like I say, if they do to us what they did at home when they won 1-0, that deep low block, obviously if they have Damsgaard in particular, they will have the players to find space in the middle when the time is right and pick out a pass that can get, into a one-on-one, which is what Ouattara got when they scored against us, with just a straightforward long ball over the top in at home. They could do that again. Ouattara is another one who can do that from the left-hand side or the right. Schade on the right, and Igor Thiago is that hold-up player, but also a player who, when they get into that final third, will be somebody who can find space in the central area, get in front of a man and grab a goal for them. I think something else to bear in mind as well is that Brentford they're happy to do an aggressive press as well. They're happy to sort of press hard and go man for man if they have to. And, Jordan Henderson in the middle, cutting off passing lanes. They're a good side, Brentford. They are. Don't underestimate Keith Andrews at all. He's done a really good job there, and they have a lot of really good players. So they'll press on as hard as they can, and if at certain points in that game. But what I imagine will happen is that Villa will go one or two ways. Brentford will try and press hard in the first 10, 15 minutes and then go into a defensive shape and maybe trying to settle us and get a goal that way. But what Villa can do to really help themselves is, like, if they're pressing hard, then those gaps open, and that's perfect for Villa. We tempt them into a press. We find a ball into a CDM or into Pau Torres. He breaks that pressing line. We get it into Morgan Rogers. He turns, and then it's that sort of 4-on-4 sort of counter-attack approach that Villa have. And from there, we can work something. And if we get a goal in that first 15, 20 minutes, well, then that game plan Brentford might have where they want to sit into a low block. Suddenly, it's difficult for them to do that for too long in the game. They're going to have to go for it at some point. Yes, they might go into it and try and hold off from going 2-0 down and try and hit us on the break. But if it's 1-0 until the 60th, 70th minute, they're going to have to go at it again. And we can therefore find our space, in the counter-attacking from there. So an early goal, I think, would be massive for Villa tomorrow. I really think it would. Duncan Kilburn just saying good stuff. Bowen, is that in reference to Jarrod Bowen? Steve here saying they've gone 1-0 up. Is that Steve who I met the other night at Villa Park? If it is, it was fantastic to meet you, mate. And the message I sent to Flangy, I found out where that name comes from. I've always wondered. It's always been quite a unique name. Black Country Villain. But yeah, fantastic to meet you, Steve. I really did enjoy it. And I'm usually in the Trinity Road stand. If you're around there, just let's have a good old chat whenever we catch each other. And I'd love to meet you as well, Angie. Black Country Villain, being a villain and being able to this podcast is brilliant for me. Thank you all. Hope you win tomorrow, and please, no injuries. Yeah, absolutely. It's the injuries in it. And yeah, the Villa podcasting world is brilliant. Everyone's such a nice person. Everyone I've ever met. The Claret and Blue lads, Dan Rowlinson, Luke Robinson as well. Justin, Dan Bardell, fantastic guy. Honestly, it's just Paddy Paul McGrath. It's been one of the best things I've done doing a podcast for Villa, and it's just been brilliant meeting everyone. It really, really has. But yeah, if West Ham had gone 1-0 up at Chelsea, that's a big help for us. I really don't want to see Chelsea going on any kind of run. And that, I just don't think Chelsea are. I don't think they're good enough to go on a 10-game winning run or anything. Like, they are just a team that are going to cause themselves a mischief at some point. And maybe West Ham today is it, hopefully. Odysseus to replace Guessand with the top of a pineapple and Sancho with a packet of crisps. Obscene waste of money for someone who flatters to deceive. Yeah, a lot of money spent on the two of them. You could argue that Sancho, 1 goal, no assist, is not a great return. And it's a big financial outlay Villa have done. I do think Villa were boxed into a corner on the final day of the transfer window and had to do something just to, after that 3-0 loss to Palace, had to do something to get the spirits up. I think it was a mistake to put the 10-game obligation into the Elliott deal, because that's evidently proven not to be a wise decision. But like I say, Villa were boxed into a corner. I'd say that with Sancho, there's something there, and I think the wages per week are gigantic, and that's Man United's bloody fault. But I think there's something there with Sancho, and I keep saying he's going to come up clutch, and I think it's in Europe, and he has done it now in Europe, at Fenerbahce. I think there's going to be moments later this season where he comes up clutch for us, and he's more of a moments player. I think he's not going to get 17 goals and 17 assists like he did for Dortmund back in the day. And maybe the Premier League isn't his ideal playing ground. But I think there's something there. I think Unai believes in him, and I think he's going to come up clutch later this season. But you're right. I mean, look, the general financial outlay from the summer has not proven to be particularly good. And Guessand, if the obligation is going to be met for Crystal Palace and he's already sold for the same amount we bought him for within 5 to 6 months, it's not a great sign at all. But we've got a whole new system now with Alabe there. The signings we made, Majo and Allison, that's young players that we hope to kick on. And our track record with signing young players, I think, has been pretty good. Roger's been the perfect example of that. John Duran, another example of that. The other players we signed this window as well. Oh God, it's completely gone out of my head who Aston Villa. Tammy Abraham. That's it. God, couldn't remember. Tammy Abraham and Douglas Luiz. I think Abraham's going to prove to be a really astute signing. And if you compare it to Philip Mateta, who we were linked with, Mateta's on a final contract, 29, going on 29 years of age now. He'll want 140k a week by all accounts. He's got a apparent knee injury. He's been tailing off this season. I think that would have been a really stupid signing. Tammy Abraham, apparently he's taking a pay cut, so he's going to be a lot lower than what Tammy Abraham, Mateta would have been asking for. He's probably on lower wages than what Marlon was on. He's actually coming for less than we sold Marlon for, so there's some money there. And then also on top of that, to me, he's a player who is coming in with something to prove. And I think Mateta would have been too similar to Danny Ings. He's probably past his peak. Yes, he'd score a few goals, but the financial outlay, 35 million quid, 140k a week, 5-year contract for a player who's on the down, going into his 30s, that would have been a silly deal. A West Ham deal. That's where I put it. And I think that signing Tammy Abraham, yes, he's 28, but somebody who's in a lot lower wages, a lot less money in transfer window, transfer fee-wise. Sorry, my brain really is not functioning as well today. I think is a lot smarter and somebody who's coming in with something to prove. And Unai Emery has a track record of working with players who have something to prove at a later stage in their career. Somebody who people think maybe their day is done, maybe they're never going to live up to what everyone thought they could be. Classic example, Evan Banega at Sevilla. And he turned out to be an absolutely fantastic player, Unai Emery. And I think we'll see similar with Tammy Abraham. I'm absolutely buzzing with Tammy. I think he's going to do really well for us. He'll score goals. He might not score, Erling Haaland levels of goals. Might not even score as many as Ollie Watkins. Although Watkins' goal outlay this season, I think Tammy might be close to it. But I think it's just what he'll bring link-up wise, back to goal wise, aerial presence wise, defensively as well. All of it. As a link-up player, I think could be fantastic, Tammy. I'm really, really excited to see what Tammy does. I just have the hunch he's going to be a really key player for us. And him and Douglas Luiz coming in, it's great because, yeah, we've had a lot of injuries recently, big injuries, but having these players come in who can, you know, lift everyone up, just uplift everyone and contribute on the pitch, and they're not for obscene amounts of money. It's smart. I think it's smart business from Villa, and Villa have to operate smart. And look, the proof's in the pudding. Ultimately, maybe it doesn't work. Maybe they're both absolutely useless, and I'm here looking like an idiot dickhead again. But if I could bet on it, I think there'll be a really positive presence for Aston Villa this season. And if they can get us through February, starting off with a win against Brentford and following it up with various wins in the league, and just trying to keep the pace with Arsenal City, we might get into mid-March by the time that McGinn and Yuri Tielemans are starting to come back into the equation. And we might still be there or thereabouts for the Premier League title. And who knows what we can do? Who knows? Believe, lads. Gender neutral term in the Irish context there. Michael Huggins, I think I just saw you there. Take care of all my tax duties and easy. See you later. Great to see you, Michael. If you're watching later, it's good to see you there. Anana, Dougie Pivot, we're sorted, just stay fit. Absolutely, Duncan. If those two can stay fit right through until the end of this season, right through until Yuri Tielemans is back and John McGinn's back, then Villa have serious depth in that area with Ross Barkley as well. And love the Dougie signing. Just great to see him back, isn't it? Flangy saying you love that video message. Yeah, it was great. I think I'd had a couple of Guinnesses, so God knows what I was saying. I feel like I've had a couple of Guinnesses now. I'm rambling that much. Rossini a fresh air, but their squad is much of a madness. Yes, I think that's a good way of putting it for Chelsea. My goodness, for some reason, my light went out there in darkness like bloody Halloween. Scary image, me coming back on there, isn't it? So Tammy is a goal machine, says Mark Crombie. Give us another dimension and helps Ollie recharge, be more effective in 30, 60-minute bursts. Exactly that. Good on you, Mark. You've been listening to the podcast. What I've been saying, football players, they ain't 90-minute players anymore. Very few are. Concert's 90 minutes. You could say Rodgers is 90 minutes, but Ollie Watkins, John McGinn, particularly as you get into your 30s, late 20s, as Tammy Abraham is, 30-60, 30-60, starter, finisher. That's what those players are. To know you've got the option of having Tammy and Ollie Watkins as two strikers who can balance up the minutes. Fantastic. And tell you what, watching Villa in Europe, it's such a buzz against Salzburg, being in the stadium for that, being there for, watching Fenerbahce. The Fenerbahce game is the one that made me believe. I thought, man, you go to a really tough away day for a team that doesn't lose at home, riding high in the Turkish league. Lots of really top players they got in their squad. And we just go into that game and absolutely dominate it. That's the one that made me a believer, where I thought there ain't anyone in Europe who's going to want to play Aston Villa. Nobody. And the Europa League is on. Could have a really tough run to it. Lyon are a really good side. I'm going to watch a few of their games to get a better sense of exactly how good they are, but they're good. Roma, very good side. Gasperini now. I feel like it might be starting to click for him. The Daniel Marlon sign might be transformational. They're another team to watch. Porto, of course, European stalwarts. And there'll be other teams as well that you won't expect to create, Celta Vigo. Another team that, European pedigree, team that could cause problems. So, I don't think we're going to get the kind of easy run that Tottenham had. I mean, no one ever has an easy run, but I will say looking at Tottenham's run last year to the Europa League final was about as close to easy as you're ever going to get. Although, no disrespect to Bodo Glimt, who have proven this season to be a top European side who's beating City and beating Atletico. But yeah, Villa, serious European team. And if we're on it every single time we play in Europe going forward, we can win the Europa League. Isn't that an amazing thing to think? Please subscribe if you're a massive Aston Villa fan. We're on the race to 5,000 subscribers, so just click that subscribe button, help us on our way. But yeah, any other comments? We can win this cup with home advantage now for sure, says Duncan. Absolutely. I mean, if we get Roma or if we get Porto, whoever else it is, having that home advantage second game is absolutely massive. It's massive, and we can do it. Lee Johnson had a horrible feeling we'd pick up big injuries with Spurs and Newcastle. Hate playing those sides, particularly Newcastle. I think they're dirty. Just getting that off my chest. Agreed, mate. Yeah, they're very. They are dirty. Well, they're hyper physical sides, and they're willing to foul. And the way refereeing is in the Premier League this season, well, for the last couple of years, they let players away with fouls because they don't hand out enough yellow cards, and therefore teams like Aston Villa, the most statistically most foul team in the Premier League, are going to be the ones who pay the price for it. Mark Crombie, I think this is probably harder to win the FA Cup than the Europa. I dare say you're right. I think there's a lot of teams in Europa you'd rather face than, say, a run of Newcastle, City, Arsenal, Liverpool, United. Well, United are out, aren't they? But, that sort of a run that's a Champions League run. They're top Champions League sides. So, but yeah, I think if Villa, if we can ride through February without too many injuries, if we can get to March by the time McGinn and Yuri are coming back into it, then FA Cup, dare I say Premier League, though I still think Arsenal probably win it. In the Europa League, there's a lot to play for this season for sure. Flange, will you be at either of the Newcastle or Leeds game in February? I might go to Newcastle, the FA Cup game. Yeah, might go to that. A lot of it's depending at the moment. I might be going to Australia last minute because my fiance is from Australia, but we're still waiting to find out if that's going to go ahead because of visa, waiting on her visa. So, yeah, we'll see. But yeah, if I am, I'd love to see you there, Angie. I gather you sit in the Trinity Road stand, so let me know. I'll put the message out next time we go into Villa Park, and we can all have a little catch up over a Guinness or something like that. But thank you everybody for listening, watching, subscribing, all of that. Brentford tomorrow, like I said earlier, they're a very physical side. They're going to bung up the middle. It is going to be difficult to play through that central zone. Could be a little bit similar to Everton. They're going to be physical. Lots of direct long throws, particularly from Michael Coyote, set pieces, a couple of big players. But if Damsgaard's injured and Aya, they're both 50-50. They're big losses for Brentford, particularly Damsgaard, I think. But from there, we've got the players who can break down a low block. We've got the shots from distance that we've proven we can do. Maatsen getting down that left-hand side, linking up, I think, with Rogers or Buendia down the left, getting into the box and pulling low balls across. They are going to be important. Having that Leon Bailey factor, a player who can, do some magic in the final third on the right-hand side, linking up with Matty Cash. We've not seen that, and Matty Cash has gone up levels this season. To see the two of them linking up, we're really crucial. So Villa down them sides, if they're going to bung up the middle and make it difficult for us to play through. Maatsen, Cash getting forward, Bailey linking up with Cash. That's going to be really, really crucial for where Villa getting into that final third, get into the byline and pulling a ball back low and hard into the box. And then also, we've also got the X factor of Tammy Abraham. So if we want to put the cross in, there's Tammy Abraham for a header, or, various other players who can do things at the back. But bear in mind as well, Brentford, they can press high. That works for us, I think. They can go aggressive. They can bung up the middle. Jordan Henderson's very good at cutting off those passing channels that Villa will want to play. But if they sit back deep, well, then just be careful of the breakaways, particularly with Dango Ouattara. But shots from distance and getting in the byline, low cross, Maatsen, Cash, Bailey, important players out wide for Villa tomorrow. Anyway, there we go. So let me know what you think. Please comment later. I'll get back to it. But until then, please subscribe. Up the mighty Villa.